funny story that happened earlier this week. I think it was Tuesday when we had that brief snowstorm. Well, it wasn't a snowstorm, it was very light. But I went out for a bike ride, and it felt like a snowstorm because I had one of those bikes that have really thin tires. And so it was getting a little scary because the snow was starting to accumulate. And a car pulled out in the crosswalk, and we made eye contact. And we were staring at each other, it was kind of a stare down, and then they backed up, and I was really appreciative because then I didn't have to go around them and risk falling on my side as I had such tiny tires. So for those of you who know ASL, you might kind of get this a little bit more, but I was wearing a mask and ski goggles, and so I couldn't really say anything to them or mouth anything to them, so I went like this, right? And then it was this guy driving, and he looks at me with just this look of astonishment, like I just blew him a kiss. And it was just a funny experience, because it's snowing, we can't really see each other, but it was a little awkward and fun. But I share that because if we were friends, maybe it wouldn't have been so weird, just kind of like a friendly little, but that's what I wish I would have known in high school a little bit more, was how to develop intentional and authentic friendships. I was someone who had a lot of acquaintances now that I look back at it. I was involved all over in high school. I was on the swim team, tennis team. I was involved here at Summit quite a bit. So I knew a lot of people, but I think the thing I struggled with was I didn't have those deep, authentic relationships. So even though I knew all these people, I still felt lonely because I didn't have these authentic relationships. I did have a few good ones that got me through things, but that's what I'm bringing to share to you today, is just having those authentic relationships. So the verse that I picked comes from John 12 through 15, and it says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you. Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. You are my friends if you do what I command you. No longer do I call you servants, for the servant does not know what his master is doing, but I have called you friends. For all that I have heard from my Father, I have made known to you." So I really focus on that beginning part where it's, greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends. When I was thinking about my relationships in high school, there wasn't many relationships where I felt like I could lay down my life for the other person, whether that's, theoretically, but that sacrificial love, I feel like I was lacking in a lot of my relationships. And it came down to, that's why looking back on my high school, I call a lot of those people acquaintances. Earlier I mentioned the few good ones, and one of those would be Jake Vanwell right here, our friend.
What?
So I think that if it wasn't for Jake, there are many times where I felt like we had each other's back, and he really got me through some tough times in high school, and even to this day. And I share that because, kind of like what we talked about during our anxiety talk, I'm someone who struggles with anxiety, and I have for a while now. And one of the weeks where we were talking about anxiety, we were talking about our circles, and so that's kind of where this comes into play, is that through finding and developing these circles, I felt like friends are very important in that. And so my challenge is pretty similar to the challenge of the week, that we talked about circles, but think about your friendships, and do you have that sacrificial love for one another